Hello, welcome to Poppin Predictions, where we believe movies aren't over at the end, but are meant to be continued. You're here with Andy and Marqueze, where we ponder what happens in a story once the credits begin to roll. Marqueze, what are we talking about today?
Hey Andy, so on today's podcast, we'll be reviewing the movie Don't Breathe. Don't Breathe is a 2016 American horror thriller film produced and directed by Fede Alvarez. In this film, three friends break into a blind man's house in order to rob him, but become trapped as the blind man hunts them down. And as always, spoilers ahead, there is a scene of sexual violence, and we do talk about it during this episode. And so if that is triggering for you or might be bothersome, we do suggest that you possibly skip over this episode. All right, Andy, so why don't you give our audience a quick description of this film?
Yeah, so first off, something that I'm really excited about with this film that I want our viewers to know is that this is our first podcast that we know for sure there will be a confirmed sequel for the movie. So it comes out in August of this year, 2021, and so we'll be actually able to see how close our prediction is to the sequel. But before we get there, let's kind of talk about what just happened. And so, yeah, like you were saying, there were three friends that that broke into a house. In the beginning of the movie, it kind of gives you the backstory behind the three friends. Not like a huge in-depth backstory, but
just enough,
just enough to let you know, like to set the scene. Rocky, who is the female protagonist in the film, or antagonist, depending on your perspective of the film. It comes from a pretty poor background. She's trying to support her family. Mostly, she's trying to support her sister, of all things. It doesn't seem like she cares much about her family, more so her sister. There was Alex, who is trying to take care of his father. And you don't really get much of a backstory behind Money. But it's okay because
he's a douchebag character that doesn't matter.
He's kind of a jerk. It starts off right away. They're in somebody's house. They're breaking in someone's house, and they're stealing everything they can, and then take off. So I like that this movie kind of gets going right away. Mm-hmm. And then they find this one house where the owner, the owner of the house has some identities that, like, you're like, really, you're gonna target this house? So, like, imagine being so low that you are gonna steal from you're gonna steal from a blind person who's a Gulf War vet.
Yes.
Who just lost his daughter in a car accident.
Now that you mention all this, it does sound really bad.
And the money, and what they're trying to steal is the settlement. So he didn't actually get justice for his daughter's death. Mm-hmm. He just got a settlement. So they're stealing the settlement money, and that's the target of the thing. And so Alex kind of has like some sort of moral compass. And at first he's like, no, I can't do this. And Rocky is trying to get out to California. She's trying to have a better life for her and her sister because she's has kind of rough go at it right now. And there's really no clear intent. I think Money just wants money. That's why his name's Money. And so it's pretty clear and obvious that Alex has a crush on Rocky. And so eventually he folds and joins the break-in. But when they break into the house, also really quick, the guy lives on Buena Vista Street or Buena Vista Lane, which is kind of messed up because that means good view in Spanish, and the guy's blind. So, like, that's just
how funny they are.
That's just kind of rude. But they break into the guy's house, and usually when they do these sort of home invasions, they do it unarmed because they mentioned during the film that that like it adds like another 10 years to if they get caught. So Alex immediately after seeing the gun, he's like, nope, I'm out. Like, I'm leaving. Like, this is it. It's important to note that like the house is completely locked up. It like there's bars on the windows. There's locks
It was really hard for them
all
to
the
get into
doors.
the house.
It was hard for them to get into the house.
Yeah.
So, like, just the idea of him trying to leave is kind of wild. But the blind man kind of hears things happening outdoors. He comes out and he is able to detect that money is trying to get to where his safe is, where all the settlement money is, and he kills money right away. Like within like the first 30 minutes of the movie, money is dead.
Money's gone.
Like,
money don't
gone.
matter.
Yeah, money is no longer a thing in this reality. And so yeah, the rest of the film is it kind of turns, and now it's almost like a Home Alone sort of thing where like there's traps all over the place, and like they're trying to escape the house. And so throughout trying to escape the house, they get into the basement, and this is where the movie kind of takes a turn, because the whole time, like, while you kind of have the backstory of the robbers, like part of you realize, like part of you knows that like they're doing a really bad thing, like they're robbing this person's house, like no matter what the intentions are, like they're robbing this person's house. But it turns when they get into the basement and they discover that that Norman, the blind man's name, Norman, had kidnapped the person who killed his daughter. The person who killed his daughter's name is Cindy Roberts. And you see, she's all strapped in, like she's like she can't, like she has like something over her mouth, like she can't escape. And so they free her. They get into Rocky and Alex get into a little bit of an argument, but they eventually free her. And as they try to escape from the basement using like an external hatch that leads to the outside, Norman is standing right out there and shoots like 3 or 4 times and skims Alex's ear, but fatally kills Cindy Roberts. And so it's just like a whole wild scene where he just completely, like, he murders her. He gets super upset. He gets scared, and he's like, he obviously did not mean to kill her. And so then they try to escape again. So trying to get out of the house. And then they get separated, and Norman kind of chases after Alex and kind of knocks him out unconscious. I don't know if he realizes he was still alive or if he thought he was dead, but at one point, like, Alex is just out of the picture, and then he goes after Rocky. He captures Rocky, and that's when we find out that he actually had impregnated Cindy Roberts with a turkey baster so that he could have a new daughter.
He's not a rapist, though.
He's not a rapist, though. According to him, he's not a rapist.
According to him. Oh, God.
So he then is like, I have to, like, I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to use you for my daughter. So he, like, uses scissors, slits into, like, Rocky's, like, area, and then right as he's about to, like, insert the turkey baster, he gets knocked in the back by Alex. And then my favorite part is after Rocky gets released, she takes the turkey baster and shoves it down the guy's throat
it's graphic.
With his specimen inside the turkey baster, which is just kind of an added bonus. Yeah. And so they're trying to decide what they want to do with him. Do they kill him? Do they let him stay? They ultimately decide to let him stay. And as they go to escape the house, Alex and Rocky, Norman, he broke free from his handcuffs and kills Alex. And so then after that, she manages to get out of the house. There's like an intense scene where Norman releases his dog after Rocky. Rocky first film that we've seen so far where the dog doesn't die. Thank God. but she defeats the dog, but she gets recaptured by Norman. She breaks free. I don't remember if she shoots him or not, but I know that I think she does shoot him, but I'm not 100% sure. She then punches him, knocks him down the stairs. She escapes with the money, mind you. That's an important thing. She escapes with the money, and it ends with her in California with her sister and Norman. She's watching the news, and she sees that Norman is in critical but stable condition and that he will survive. That was pretty wild. It was definitely a very intense film.
Yeah, it's so yeah, this was like my second, maybe third time seeing the film. I saw it around when it came out, like 2016 or 2017. Yeah, intense film. It's a pretty good thriller because you're just constantly wondering, like, at first, the bad guys, like, you're kind of like you're rooting for the bad guys because you want them to escape the house, but here they are robbing a blind veteran, whose settlement money he got from his daughter dying, but they quickly turn, Norman into the villain.
Right.
Which I think is why they have you, because at first, as I was rewatching this movie again with you, I was kind of wondering, like, they have him go down into the basement after they grab the money all pretty quickly. And I was like, man, this is all happening super fast.
Yeah.
And that shows you, once they find the girl in the basement, that shows you, oh, Norman is not a good guy. This is not a good guy whatsoever. So it quickly lets you see him as the villain, which then allows you to start voting, and rooting for the young adults who are breaking into his house.
Yeah, of course. And like in the news broadcast at the end, it makes it clear, or at least it gives you the impression that he did not say anything about Rocky. And that they said that like 2 people were killed. And there was no mentioning about Cindy Roberts being there. It didn't seem like they discovered anything. It just was more so focused on Norman surviving what was happening.
Well, there's a scene where he takes, after Cindy dies, he takes her body, like, fills it with like cement or something, and like puts it under his floorboard. Like,
oh wow.
So
yeah, I must have missed that part.
Yeah,
that's wild. Yeah, it's definitely, I don't know. It's the whole time I definitely felt bad rooting for Cindy, not Cindy. Oh gosh. Well, yeah, no, I never really. I mean, I felt bad for Cindy for the situation she was in, but like she did some really bad things. But like it made me feel bad for rooting for Rocky and Alex because at the same time, like they shouldn't have broken into this guy's house. But it does. I mean, it does make us wonder. Like, I feel like this happens all the time. Like, not to say like this specific situation, but like some sort of like human trafficking sort of thing where like you never know what is happening
in someone's basement.
In someone's basement.
Like, I'm right there with you. Like immediately, like as that scene happened, I couldn't help but think like, this has to be common. Like there's no way this is an uncommon thing. Like if you hear about it every once in a while, that means it's happening way more than however often you hear about it. Like there has to be lots of, because people go missing all the time. So I would imagine there's lots of missing people in people's like basements, I would imagine, who just, and those basements never get checked, Yeah, exactly. And part of me was thinking afterwards, like, we should, like, I know there's a lot of civil liberties being broken if we did this, but like, there should be like a once in a year annual check, I think, like just checking basements or something, like.
That would never happen in America.
Never.
We don't even do intensive background checks to get guns. Like, there's no way we're checking basements here.
No way. But like, I don't know, it really kind of like brought to light of like, wow, like this could be anybody. This could be like your neighbor type thing. And I don't know, it was just kind of very like that was like the most haunting part of it was like, man, like if these people wouldn't have broke in, no one would have ever, known this girl was down here,
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah,
it's
definitely.
Wild.
Yeah. So for me, like when I reflect on this film, like something I really liked about this was like, it got going right from the beginning. Like it didn't really have any slow points. It kind of kept you going the whole time. It was really suspenseful. So the pacing was really well. The acting was pretty good. It wasn't like the most amazing acting, but that being said, like it's definitely passable. Like definitely, I enjoyed it. It just wasn't like outstanding. There were definitely a lot of emotions there. Like I said, complex ones. I thought the plot was pretty good. Like it wasn't like your typical film, and there were some pretty good, like pretty heavy twists that you don't see coming. Like the whole like discovering that he had kidnapped Cindy Roberts, like did not see that coming. I thought that was a pretty good thing. There were definitely some flaws. I felt like how he was able to smell certain things, or certain things were causing to, like when I say like him being able to smell, like I'm referring to Norman. Like Norman being able to smell like certain things and detect that like that's where they are based off smell. But there are multiple times where he like runs right past Alex or Rocky. Like one of the most intense scenes in the beginning is like Alex is creeping down the hallway, and then Norman creeps literally right next to him. Like he walks right next to him, and he isn't able to detect him. So like that sort of thing is kind of where I'm like, eh. And then like how is a blind man going out into the world and kidnapping, like knows who he's kidnapping, and like
there are a lot of questions at that point. I didn't even think about that. Like how in the world?
Like how did he kidnap her?
How did he kidnap her?
And then like obviously Cindy Roberts' family is rich enough to afford a settlement deal. Are you telling me that that they weren't able to like investigate this? Like what is like
probably check the person whose daughter he killed.
Exactly. Like, and it's not like she was just kidnapped. Like she had been there for, I think it wasn't like she was super pregnant when they caught her when they got in there. But I think they mentioned that she was like a couple months pregnant. Like she might have been like 2 or 3 months pregnant, and so like she was missing for a while. Like how are they not thinking we should probably check with this one guy who she killed his daughter? Maybe we should check to see the house. So like there are definitely some plot holes within this movie that kind of like if you stop and think about it, you're like, okay, like this doesn't really make sense. And I'm making it sound like I don't like the movie. Like I really do enjoy it. I thought that it was really good, but there's just some like things that I'm just like, this doesn't make sense, that kind of takes me back from like fully getting into it. But yeah.
Yeah, no. I thought that was a plot hole kind of like how he got her. But I mean it's here or there. Like so this movie is a thriller. Like the whole point is
right.
kind of keep you on your toes. And I will say it does a really good job at that.
Definitely.
Mainly because like these people break into the house, and then the person whose house they're breaking into is now trying to murder them. So that kind of gives you the thrill, like, oh my God, is he going to be able to hunt them all down? But then two is, the fact that he's blind. And so like they have a distinct advantage, but this military veteran is like so
he's not playing. Like
he's not playing. Like he's strong, like he's aggressive, like he had weapons, like he is, and his whole house is set up like in terms of like being able to quickly lock down, and like he just knows everything so well. And so there's parts to where they have to be very quiet, they have to play this right. And so the thrill doesn't just come from the fact that he's hunting them down, but the fact that he's blind and hunting them down. And so like they have to be extra quiet, they have to like you said, that you mentioned the scene where Alex is walking down the hallway and Norman comes running past him, and so Alex just kind of goes flat against the wall while Norman's like literally like inches from him, but you just can't see him, and so he just has to be super quiet while he's like literally like right in eyesight. So
it was pretty intense. Like it was really good.
I don't know. Did you say this movie scared you?
I think that there were definitely moments that I was like, oh my gosh, like holy crap. Like definitely that scene. When he just pops out and like scares them and gets them down. I don't think I was like necessarily scared when Money died, but definitely like the impact that had, like because you saw on Rocky's face like the impact that had. Like she didn't know what to do. Like she immediately ran into the closet. Like she got into the closet because she was just like so scared and she didn't know what to do. And so like in that sense, I was scared because I was just like, oh my gosh, like what are they gonna do here? Like it is a pretty scary thing. And then like of course when the dog first enters the movie and just like jumps up on the window barking, like when you don't really suspect the dog,
it just jumps at you.
It just kind of jumps up. Like it is pretty scary. That being said, very happy the dog didn't die again. But yeah, I would say yeah, it was kind of scary at certain points. It was more. I would say it was definitely more of a thriller though. More suspenseful.
Yeah, 100% agree. So, Andy, what do you think happens after the credits roll?
Dang. Okay. So we talked a little bit about this, not too much, but there's some things to consider. Obviously, there's no way for me to compare how he was able to track down Cindy Roberts versus how he would track down Rocky. But I realistically think that that's where this movie goes to. I think that he tries to track down Rocky. And I think that something else that happens is something that happens during the movie. Alex mentions to Rocky that like their DNA is all over the house. And so like that's part of the other thing. So maybe while crime scenes and investigators are there like doing like some sort of like just cleaning up the house, or just somehow, some way, Rocky gets identified by the police. And so she's getting chased by both the police and by Norman in the second film. And I think that this kind of gets backed up a little bit because something that we haven't talked about that I'm really excited to share with you, and maybe something that you might not have considered, is during the trailer, there was a deleted scene that didn't happen in the film. And again, me doing some extra snooping. And it's actually of Norman inside like an airport or some sort of terminal. And so that kind of leads you to believe that he is actually going after Rocky.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that he goes after Rocky to try to get his money back. I think the motive is there. I think he has motive to do it, like because of the fact that she broke into, like she was part of a group that broke into. I mean, they broke into his house. That's one thing. Yeah. Then, like, you don't know if he necessarily blames Rocky for killing Cindy, but he would. I think that you could make the argument that like he does blame Rocky and the others for him killing Cindy and then not being able to. And I think he still is on that quest to bring his daughter back somehow, even though like we all know that like that logically doesn't make sense and that like that's not going to fix anything. Yeah. But I think that he is trying to get Rocky back so that he can continue the process and trying to bring his daughter back. And in all the while, the police are doing an investigation and trying to track her down. And then what I ultimately seeing is a clash where the police get involved. Rocky is about to get hurt by Norman, and then the police come and save the day, which is kind of like, really, the police? No, but I know it's like such like a, I know it's like such like a movie. I know it's like such a movie trope. That's such a movie trope. But I think that like realistically, that's kind of where it comes down to, is that Rocky might get pinned and like has nowhere else to go, and then out of nowhere she gets help from the police, and then something happens from there.
Okay, that's not bad. So here's where I kind of everything gets convoluted for me when it comes to what Norman really wants, right? So his money, they came there to get his money and they took his money. The first scenes, have nothing to do with Cindy in his basement. The first scenes when they're in the house are solely about the money and then him stopping them from getting his money. And when they're in the house, the first thing he does is go and check in his safe because they don't even know where the safe is. He's going to check in his safe, and that's how they end up finding out where the safe is, whereas they're looking at him while he goes to check the safe and make sure that his money is still there. And so obviously he does care about the money to some degree.
Right.
But that being said, after he goes, checks the safe, sees the money's there, checks the safe later once he realizes there's still more people in the house, and then sees that the money's gone and goes on the whole hunt for them, he obviously cares about the money. But once Cindy Roberts, the girl in the basement, comes into play, I don't know. Like, he doesn't seem to care about the money afterwards.
The money definitely is not as big a motivator. I think he does realize that the money is not going to bring back his daughter. Like, the money is nice, and it's definitely there to take care of him.
Maybe the money, I was about to say, maybe the money's for his daughter, for the new daughter that he'll have.
That is true. That is also a different intention, is that, like, the money is more so there for him to help take care of the future daughter that he has.
Yeah. The daughter seems to be the big thing on his mind. It definitely
seems to be the big thing. And that's what I ultimately think, I think that is the bigger motivator, is that, like, he wants the money back, but it's not just about the money.
It's bigger the daughter, but so here's to me is why, like, if he needed the money back, then yes, he has to go after Rocky. If he just wants another daughter, he does not need to go, because like the movie hints that Rocky goes to California and they're in Michigan. So I mean, if he just wants another daughter, he does not need to go after Rocky in California. He could kidnap another girl who lives locally or whatever and repeat this whole process again. But so the man has like some really weird moral system. I don't really know. I don't understand it. Like, he didn't seem to have a problem kidnapping the girl or
impregnating her.
Yeah, he didn't really seem to have any problem doing that because she did not get justice by going to jail.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
It's a hit and run, right? For like running over his daughter or whatever. It seems to be like a hit and run. Yeah. And so there's one scene where the man literally says, I'm not a rapist. I've never forced myself upon any woman, which I'm sitting here like, you're literally, you're about like just being clear, like, you're about to assault this woman sexually. Like even though it's with a turkey baster, this is 100% not okay. You do not earn you're not a gentleman, okay? Like, you don't earn any gentleman points because you've never forced yourself on a woman in the typical way.
Like, rape is rape. Like,
it's still like I don't know what this man tries to. So he has some really weird moral system in his head where he thinks he's a good guy because he decided to go this different route. That being said, he may not feel okay about just kidnapping some random woman. And so he may only feel okay about kidnapping a woman he feels is guilty. So he was guilty of killing his daughter. But Rocky would be guilty of robbing him.
But how is he going to, like, and that's kind of where I understand where you're going into, and I could definitely agree to a certain sense of, like, he doesn't necessarily need to go to Rocky to do it. But, like, how is he going to, like, I mean, I know that he's blind, he's not deaf, so he can, like, listen to the news and try to.
It's very hard. It's so hard to find.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like he knows, like, Rocky. He knows Rocky. Like, he knows that, like, she wronged him somehow, some way, and so, like, that's to me why I think that it would be harder for him to just, unless he just doesn't care about that and he really more so cares about having a daughter and kidnapping anyone off the streets. But I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that either, because everybody in the movie is a bad person. Like, however you break it down, no matter, there's not one, like, except for the sister.
Alex seems to be the best, though. If you have to,
I mean, like I said,
he's
Alex
still doing wrong. Don't get me wrong, but like, he seems.
Alex
to be the
is
best
chaotic neutral or evil neutral, whatever the term is. But like, he or good, whatever. Like, he's definitely the best of the worst, and I think maybe the only redeemable character is the sister, because the sister doesn't know it, like Rocky's sister, because she doesn't know any better. But like, I mean, they all have flaws in some sense. Like, Alex was convinced by love and stuff like that to continue on with something that he knew was wrong. Like, he knew that breaking into the people's houses was wrong. He knew robbing from a blind veteran who just lost his daughter was wrong. And he continued doing it even like for the sake of Rocky. Like he found out that they were going to California, and he wanted to go with them. Like he did it for her, and so like yes, he is definitely better, but he's still a bad person. Rocky broke into the guy's house. Like money was a jerk from the get-go, and at first Norman isn't the bad guy, but then he quickly becomes the bad guy after you find out what he did to Cindy. Cindy, of course, murdered his daughter with no real justice other than having there's no other than like she just got away with murder basically because she has rich parents.
Real quick though, why? Now that I think about it, he got a bunch of like settlement money, blah blah. He wants a new daughter. Why didn't he just adopt?
You know, I think.
Like, did he want to punish Cindy?
I think it was. I don't know, and I think that's also something that we can dive down to is like, why did he just do that? Like, how? Like, there has to be some way that he got Cindy. Like, did Cindy maybe feel bad and stop by the house, and then he kidnapped her, or like? How did he get her? Like, that's part of the reason why.
That would be a crazy trailer, dude. If, like, she's just looking at the door, I'm so sorry, then bam, just snatches her inside.
Maybe he invites her inside. Maybe he invites her inside and then just, like, knocks her out, kidnaps her downstairs in the basement. But, like,
also, he has no problem with hitting women either. There's one scene where he finally gets his hands on Rocky and just bah, like in order to knock her unconscious. And it's just like, dude, I don't know where this man is getting his morality at. Like, this is wild. Like, this is crazy.
The morality is almost out the window. just like Alex and Rocky were when they fell into the basement, like the second time. Like, morality is out the window. There's a lot of things, and so getting back to it, like that is a great question. Like, I don't understand why he didn't adopt. He had the money for it. He might have had difficulties. Like, I know that, again, sidebar, and then sort of like looking at our foster care system. Like, it is very hard to adopt a kid, and I can imagine how difficult it would be for a single blind man to adopt somebody.
Yeah,
it probably is it's probably near impossible for a single blind man to adopt a kid without a caregiver, because there doesn't seem to have any sort of caregiver. And so that's why I don't think that he could have adopted, even though he has the financial ability to do it. I don't think he can provide the care that the kid would need. But that also might be very ableist of me to say.
It's fair that would be harder for him to like get a child. I'm just kind of, I don't know. I feel like there had to be other ways. I felt like part of it was, I mean, obviously he wanted a child back, but I think also like he wanted to punish her too.
I think so too. I think
at one point he says,
I think that's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, at one point he says, rich girls don't go to prison, so exactly. Like he's very mad that she didn't get punished about for what happened. So,
yeah, I agree. So, to get kind of back to what your prediction. So, you don't think that he goes after Rocky, or do you?
I to be honest, I don't think he goes after Rocky. Okay. I think he cuts his losses because I could actually say he doesn't seem all that vengeful. He's actually obviously a vengeful man. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't see him going after Rocky. Maybe just because it doesn't seem plausible to me of like him being able to like, because he's an older gentleman too. So he's older, all the stuff that's got found out. Like, it'd be very hard, I think, for him to go all the way to California, find Rocky in California, kidnap her, bring her back to where his house is. Because like, I don't know, it would just be a lot.
He also doesn't know how. He doesn't know where she goes.
Yeah,
you're
like
right.
there's
you're
nothing.
right to say this. Like he doesn't know where she goes. Like she doesn't mention. Like they don't talk about California when they're in the house. It's strictly outside of the house before they interact with him that they talk about going to California.
Nowhere.
And so there'd have to be some sort of like news report or something about her going to California. Or something like. because again, he's blind. He can't watch the news and see that she's there, or just something like that.
There's no hint that he would know. So I don't think he goes after her. But I also don't see him giving up on his dream of getting a new daughter. So what I think he does is I think he goes right back to the same thing he tried to do with Cindy Roberts. But I think his weird morality, I don't think he's just going to kidnap some random girl. I think he's going to try to find some girl who he feels is worthy of being kidnapped, whatever the hell that means. Like, I think he's going to try to find a girl who he feels is bad or wronged or something like that, and then repeat the process and try to get a new child.
Do you think that because we know that there's a sequel, like I said earlier, we know that there's a sequel. Do you think that maybe he pairs up with somebody? I think that because I know that there's a sequel, I feel like I can try to be a little bit more concrete with my prediction. Not to say that I haven't tried as hard on our previous podcast, but like I know that there's a sequel, so like I could try to base it off of something I know is happening.
Yeah.
Do you think that he might, because of the fact that he's a veteran, do you think that he might team up with somebody who might be sympathetic for his cause, and that's how he finds somebody, and then that also adds an additional layer of like there's this blind person who's a veteran, as well as someone else that this person would have to his new victim would have to worry about. Because I think that if it was just like another thriller of one person having like escape from the same blind person from the first film, like it might not grow much from the film. But if there's like a new layer of like there's another person that's there to help him, like I think that would add to the thriller.
Yeah, I mean, part of me, like, I'm trying to see how they would, how to do a sequel. Like, part of me does kind of, I don't know, I kind of feel like they might just do a whole different story, with new characters and everything. Yeah. But, I mean, if they're going to go back to, Norman, because you killed off 2 out of the 3, main characters, I don't see Rocky coming back. Like, unless Rocky never gets away, or she realizes that, unless the sequel takes place almost immediately afterwards, and Rocky actually never gets to California and realizes she left something in the house that she needs to get back, and so
I mean, she's still from that location. She's still from Michigan.
Yeah, like
nothing's out of the possibility that like maybe she comes back. Like, not to say, like you were just saying, like she comes back to the house because she forgot something. I don't know about that, but like,
what if he takes her little sister? That'd be wild.
That'd be wild.
That'd be wild.
That would be. I mean, the movie did come out. This Don't Breathe came out in 2016, and then this movie, like, it's coming out in 2021, and so, like, this little sister at the time didn't seem of age, but now I think that if they kind of take it up, like present day, 2021 present day. I think that she would be of age, and so it definitely would kind of create like a new suspense if he kidnapped the sister. So I think that it's not out of the realm of possibility that like maybe she runs out of money, like maybe she runs out of money, or maybe her mom is sick because
But he wouldn't have more money, would he? There's no reason for it. Why would he have more money?
Why would he need more? To take care of his future daughter, like we were just saying.
But where's he going to get it from? Because I mean, the previous money he got from the settlement, so
that's true. But anyway, like we know that the mom from like Rocky's mom isn't in the best health, like they aren't in the best conditions, and so maybe Rocky's mom gets sick and she comes back from California to help take care of her mom, and then that's how she ends up going back to the house for some reason. That would be the only way that you're right. Like, I think when I was going down that rabbit hole of it being Rocky, like it realistically like doesn't make sense. So I think that maybe it would be like an entirely new thing unless there's some sort of reason for Rocky to come back to Michigan.
I think that if they do, there's two ways. They could continue the storyline, which if they continue the storyline, they could, I don't know. They're gonna have to get creative on how they alter it. Because I mean, let's be real. Like, I mean, though I do actually think this was a pretty good film, and that will reflect in my rating when we get to that. Overall, it is kind of like a standard, fairly standard, like break-in film where like the person who they break into is actually like more maniacal than they are. Like there's plenty of films that kind of have this kind of whole plot line. And so it's not like anything wild, though there are some good twists. Like I think the girl in the basement and what was happening with her was a really, really great twist. To kind of bring in like a more like, whoa, who is this guy? What is happening factor. So as long as they write it creatively, I think it'll be okay. Yeah. If they decide to go with a whole different storyline, they can't just redo this. I think they're going to have
they have to do something.
They're going to have to like amp it up.
Because at this point, we know the big reveal. We know that he's like, that was part of what made Don't Breathe so special, is that up until that twist, while you're not necessarily rooting for Norman, you're also not rooting against him, you know? And so once that big reveal happened, like, I know for me that even though like Alex and Rocky got into that situation, I was rooting for them to get out.
100%. Especially Alex. Alex just felt like the most guiltless. He didn't want to do it. He was the one that said, like, when they first were trying to rob him, he was the one that's like, but he's blind. Why are we robbing a blind man? He was the one that said, we got to obey the rules. We don't take more than this. We don't bring it. Like, he was the voice of reason the entire time, you know?
Yeah. And so, Alex is like the voice of reason and like the high moral character. And I think like the big overarching point that I'm trying to make is that like in this first film, we're rooting for after the big reveal where we find out that Norman is actually kind of a little bit the bad guy. We kind of root for them. But in the sequel, like if they keep it the same way, like there is no big reveal, like there is no big thing that makes us switch like completely against the antagonist, rooting like so. I kind of have to agree with you there that maybe there is like an entirely different plot, an entirely different thing. But part of me really would love to see like Rocky come back, or maybe like a similar story kind of come back in for the sequel. So like let's kind of get towards I kind of want to know what your recommendation for this movie is, Marquise.
Yeah, so for people who are into thrillers, I'd recommend it 100%. If you haven't seen this movie, this is a good thriller. Like I said, you're on your toes the whole time. I know we gave away a lot of what happens if you haven't seen this movie before, but nevertheless, like it's like there's still moments to where you're like, oh wait, how did it get out of that? How did it get past this? You know, and so it's a solid thriller. But nothing that's also gonna like scare you or like leave you terrified at night. You know, it'll be fine. Side note, I showed Andy this film a while ago, and let's talk about a real horror film that like leaves you terrified for days on end. If you can see Andy's face right now.
I don't even want to talk about that 2009 thriller that if you even want to call it a thriller, it was boring up until the end of the movie, and then it scarred me for life. If you really... It's called Antichrist. It's called Antichrist. We are not, I'm going to let you know now, we are not doing a podcast on that one. I refuse to touch it again. Antichrist, 2009. Super boring
I thought
movie.
It was later.
I think it was 2009. Or it could have been later. I know it was like late. It was early 2010s, late 2000s. If you really want to
you're right, 2009.
If you really want to get scarred for life, watch this movie. I shudder every time I think about it, and part of me hates Marquise showing me it. No, I'm kidding. I love you, Marquise.
But yeah, thank you. But yeah, no, I do recommend Don't Breathe. Don't Breathe is good. It's a good, solid thriller. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like I said, I like the movie. If we're looking at our rating scale, between small, medium, large, and big bucket, this might surprise you a little bit, but I am kind of like somewhere between like a medium to large bucket sort of thing. I think when I initially saw the movie, I was like, this is definitely a large for me. But then when I stopped and thought about some of the plot holes and sort of the things that were missing, it kind of took me out of it. And so that's kind of where I'm kind of like in between like a medium medium to large. I definitely agree. This should be a movie that you watch. Like, this is definitely a really good movie. If you are up to date with our podcasts, I would say watch this movie before you watch Run. But if you're thinking of like the story and like the plot holes, like that's kind of where it kind of it knocks the movie down for me, is that there were just some questions that like needed to be answered. And like, I'm not saying that every single question needs to get answered in a movie, but like when it comes to the plot of the movie, like there needs to have a little bit more substance to it. And so that's kind of where it falls for me. What about you?
Yeah, so I would give this a solid large bucket. I think it's a pretty solid thriller. And that makes sense, even for me, for the second and third time watching it around, the fact that like it still got me at parts, it's a solid thriller. So I definitely will give this a large bucket. It's not innovative enough or next level enough. Like on the cover of it, it says, like in quotes, the best thriller film made in the past 20 years. That's not true. Not true whatsoever.
No.
But so like it's not innovative enough for me to give it like big bucket, but I will give this a solid large.
Yeah, I can agree with you. It's definitely worth the watch. It does make me nervous for Don't Breathe 2. I am curious to see, now that I know for a fact that there is a sequel, I am curious to see what direction they take it. Because part of me is very nervous that it will not live up to the first one. But that being said, Don't Breathe 2 does come out August 13th, 2021, unless there's any sort of pushback.
Which is very possible.
Very possible in these COVID times. But if you Google it, I think August 13th is the date. And so you can expect that we will definitely do a Don't Breathe 2 at some point. Probably around August, now that unless it gets pushed back. That being said, what did you think about our continuation of Don't Breathe? Did you agree? Were there some things that we missed? Why don't you let us know? Please follow us on Twitter at PoppinPredict and on Instagram at PoppinPredictions.pod to let us know what your thoughts are and how you think this movie should continue.
Thank you all for listening. Appreciate it. And if you have, like you said, if you have any recommendations or anything like that, please follow us at Twitter at PoppinPredict and Instagram at PoppinPredictions.pod. Send us a message and let us know.
Yeah, we received a lot of good recommendations after our launch. Thank you so much for all the positive feedback. We really appreciate it. I can't speak for certain, but I would like to start doing some of the recommendations that we got for our next one. So you can expect some of your feedback to be quickly implemented in our next episode.
100%.
Cool. All right. Have a good one, y'all.
Peace.
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 Good one, y'all.